Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Legislative Subcommittee meeting. Please join me to a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of the members. Councilor Guarino Sawaya.
Here.
Here. Councilor Haas.
Here.
Here. Councilor Kelly.
Here.
Here. Councilor McKenna. Here. And Chairman Argenzio.
Here.
Here. Quorum is present. First item on the agenda is an ordinance removing outdated language from Title II of the revised ordinances of the City of Revere.
I think this is mainly a housekeeping issue. Do any councilors wish to speak on this? Councilor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did see some of the wording, city pharmacist, and I did want to touch on one thing, though, that I wasn't sure if maybe someone can answer. It mentioned the clothing allowance. So did that mean it was going to totally delete the clothing allowances that some city employees get, or was it just the way it was worded in the old language?
That's old language. Clothing allowances are provided for within the respective union contracts, to the best of my knowledge.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Roll call.
To provide a favorable recommendation to the full City Council to adopt the proposed ordinance, Councilor Guarino Sawaya.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Haas.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Kelly.
Yes.
Yes. And Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Councilor McKenna and Chairman Argenzio.
Yes.
Yes, the ordinance has received a favorable recommendation for adoption. Next is an ordinance further amending, further amending the Revere revised ordinances relative to financial impact statements.
Any councilors wishing to speak? Roll call. Yes, please.
Shall the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee offer a favorable recommendation to adopt the financial impact statement ordinance? Councilor Guarino Sawaya?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Haas?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna? Yes. And Chairman Argenzio?
Yes.
Yes, the ordinance as proposed has received a favorable recommendation for adoption. Next is an ordinance further amending Chapter 805 of the Revere revised ordinances relative to the regulation of vacant buildings.
Councilors wishing to speak? Okay. Roll call,
For a favorable recommendation?
please.
Shall the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee offer a favorable recommendation to adopt the vacant building ordinance? Councilor Guarino Sawaya?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Haas?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna? Yes. And Chairman Argenzio?
Yes.
Yes, the ordinance has received a favorable recommendation for adoption. Next up is an ordinance further amending Chapter 12.20, Poles, Wires, and Cables of the Revere revised ordinances.
Any councilors wishing to speak? So just before you go, Councilor, this is a motion that I put in. National Grid comes before us and holds public hearings as to the location of poles and conduits. This motion would put that under the jurisdiction of the city engineer and no longer come before us. Now, that doesn't mean that at any time we wanted to call National Grid before us if we had an issue with double poles or we had some other problem. We still have that ability to do so. I think that the people that come before us for a certain issue, we kind of tend to vent on them, and they really don't have an understanding what we're discussing that night because it really has nothing to do with them. And second, I had asked the policy writer to come up with a policy that when the city engineer gets a request from National Grid, that they reach out to the ward councilor to get their input. So the ward councilor would still have some input. They wouldn't have any official sign-off on it, but we could still get the opinion of the ward councilor. So that was the idea behind the motion. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Ira Novoselsky, 53 Delhone Street, Ward 2 Councilor. I understand what you're saying. I just think we'd be losing a general voice from everybody. Because National Grid, we know, is very bad. You know, they have not been good to us. And lately, they have not even attempted or even acknowledged coming up to us to talk to us about the double pole situation. Now, how would we bring up the city engineer to ask him about double poles? You know, if that's this, you know, because everybody's going to have questions. Who else are we going to ask? That's
Yes,
one
well,
question.
this particular, if I may, Counselor, this particular ordinance just covers installation of poles, installation of conduits, and gets us out of the public hearing. We can still call National Grid at any point we want or periodically to come up and discuss issues like that, double poles and what have you. This doesn't put the idea of double poles is an issue that we have. I don't think that would be handled by the city engineer. We'd still be able to call, but at least we would have somebody in front of us that could answer those questions intelligently, rather than a person coming up here to speak about a pole location and us hammering away at them. So,
Yeah, I did meet with National Grid and the gentleman that came up and talked to us down on Walnut Ave when we had that situation down there, and you know, they were trying to get me to bend and change my mind, and I said, well, at this point, you know, we had already voted no, so they couldn't come back to us until the next session next year to ask for something like that. But I told them absolutely not. The neighbors don't want it. And I just told them straight out. And there was still one wire on the single pole that they were questioning. It was a private company coming, so they can't even take the double pole down until that private company moves their wire. So that was a bad situation. But, you know, if the city engineer is only going to handle pole locations for new poles, I don't think I have a problem with that. But again, you know, he still has to communicate with us to make sure that we know, and it shouldn't only be me. I think it should be the at-large councilors also, because they have some tendencies to work down there and, you know, get votes down there and talk to the people. So I think maybe it should be the councilors at large and that particular ward councilor to be notified when that happens. And again, do we talk to the city engineer about other issues that we may have, or do we have to go to, you know, try and call up National Grid to come up and discuss, you know, changing lights and double poles? You know, you said double poles, but changing lights and stuff like that, and hanging wires. You know, I just think we lose a little out of this. So, but you know, I'm open. I'm not gonna, you know, step in front of a gun. You know, if I don't get it, or if it goes the other way. But you know, I just want to, you know, view my opinion on it and what my thoughts on. The city engineer is a busy guy, and he just has to communicate to us, which is very, very important. Which, you know, honestly, there's a lack of that communication and energy to do that. You know, for anything, you know, in the engineering department. But just as far as the poles are concerned, you know, we may have to bend and, you know, go for that. So that's my thoughts on it. Thank you.
thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to? Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have a problem with, a lot of problems with down wires. And they're not the telephone wires, they're just cable wires or old telephone wires. So I have to go through a series of, I have to call RCN, Astonish, or whatever it is, And then they direct me, they go out, and they say it's not their wire, it's Comcast, so I have to get in charge with Comcast now. And there's a new person I haven't been talking to Angela, her name is Stephanie. Yeah, so she's been, Stephanie, I can give you the contact number, but she's been great. But it's not, what I'm trying to say is it's not always National Grid. It's all these other companies that are on these poles. And there's many of them. There's the firefighters, there's, the telephone, Comcast, RCN, National Grid. I mean, there's a ton of them, so, and that's, I have to go through the chains of commands to get the problems fixed. So I just don't think that it's a good thing for Nick Rysam to, be in charge of that, because, it's just, I think it's a ward councilor thing. So,
The thing
thank
is,
you.
we're not putting him in charge of all those things.
No.
He's only doing the new polls.
Yeah, the new poles, but even the new poles, if there was a new pole going in front of my house, I would want to know. And if he doesn't communicate that, and it goes in, then, it's lost. So I would like to know, I get what you're trying to do, Mr. Chairman, but I would like to know, especially it's my ward, I would like to know where poles are going, what wires are hanging down, who we have to call, and just, that's it. Thank you.
Councilor Kelly.
Thank you. So I think that the premise behind this is great, and I agree with it. But I'm just curious that there was an instance not too long ago that dealt with Taft Street, and a resident reached out to me and contacted me because there was a very old pole, and when they were putting that pole in, they damaged his fence, and he had a lot of difficulty with it. And National Grid was going to come in, and instead of revamping that existing pole, they wanted to put another pole in, which was even going to be closer to his property. So he was very concerned that if they damaged his fence the first time and the pole was even further away, that his property would withstand some damage and things like that. So in instances like that, would this take away our opportunity, or would it make it more difficult for us to have that opportunity to voice our opinion or our opposition to something like that?
Well, part of my original motion was it would require, through a policy written by the policy writer, for the engineer to inform. At first, I said ward councilors, but we could certainly extend that to councilors at large, that any time a request for a pole location came in, that they would seek the input of the ward councilor. We could certainly widen that to the councilors at large.
But I think my question is, I would have an opportunity, maybe, hopefully, if that goes smoothly, and the message got to me, and that I could, convey a message from the resident and things like that. But I think that night, we actually had an opportunity to vote on something. So would this process then be taking that away?
Yes, it would. Councilor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the premise of this, the original motion, was more or less based on a lack of communication between National Grid and someone, a representative coming up here at the council meetings who had absolutely no answers to the questions we were asking. And that was one of my big gripes when I first started here on the council. I couldn't believe that a representative from that company would get up here and they wouldn't know where the street was, or they'd be very reluctant to answer any questions regarding the work. And I've talked to Councilor Novoselsky about this, and I always felt like the ward councilors should be alerted immediately, well before the plan comes before us. That was always a huge issue with me, and I know Councilor Novoselsky had told me that sometimes they would alert them, other times they wouldn't, and I just always thought there should be a plan in place where the ward councilors are notified. That way they can answer the questions that come in from the residents. And I know recently, about a month or so ago, I had talked to someone at National Grid who said they were planning on meeting with city representatives, and they were supposed to come up with this plan where they would talk about what poles they were moving, what conduits and all everything like that, but still haven't heard back, and it was a month or so ago. So I understand the motion, absolutely. Thank you.
Councilor Guarino Swire.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with the motion as well. I do not agree with adding the at-large counselors on there. I think the ward counselor needs to take the first initiative, and if a ward counselor is needed to help the process, that's fine. But I think that if somebody, one of the at-large counselors comes into my ward and does something without me knowing, and then it comes to me, oh, Angela, this is what happened. I went, this other ward counselor, this other counselor took care of the situation, and I don't know about it, I'm going to have a problem with it. So I would rather keep it with the ward counselors the way you had it.
Okay, so to
Thank
be
you.
clear, this just amends the motion, amends the ordinance. There's nothing in the ordinance that says ward counselors or counselors at large need to be brought in on it. That would be a separate policy that we would ask the policy writer to create for us and give to the engineer. So, am I speaking correctly? Yeah, so this would just take the poll locations and conduit locations out of the city councilor's hands and put it with the city engineer. Then, hopefully, the policy writer would create a document instructing the city engineer to inform the ward counselor. Now, whether it's a ward counselor or whether it's a counselor at large, I guess we could debate that later when Ms. Inzarello is, I know she's on vacation, can appear before us, and we could make our feelings known on how that policy should be written.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just, to clarify things, we have to realize this is only for a new pole location. It's
Right.
not dealing with a double pole. If a pole is old and they're replacing it, that's not what we're talking about, because it's basically going in the same spots, right within a foot.
Okay. Would everyone be
side.
more comfortable if we leave this in committee and wait for the policy writer to return, and then we could discuss both issues at the same time? How's that sound? Okay. Madam Clerk, leave in committee.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
And last on the agenda is an ordinance further amending Appendix C salaries of the Revere Revised Ordinances, which provides for parity salary adjustments in concert with a recently approved Unit A and Unit B collective bargaining agreements.
Any councilors wishing to speak? Roll call.
Shall the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee offer a favorable recommendation to the full City Council to adopt the parity salary ordinance? Counselor Guarino Sawaya?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna? Yes. And Chairman Argenzio?
Yes.
Yes, the parity salary ordinance has received a favorable recommendation for the full City Council. There's no further business.
Thank you. Meeting as adjourned.